Chapter 1, Rebirth Countdown. Squelch. A cold blade pierced through her heart, bringing with it a spray of hot blood mist. Lin Ji lowered her head in disbelief, looking at the longsword that had stabbed in from her back and emerged from her chest. The blade was engraved with complex magical patterns. It was the divine artifact, open black lens bracket kiss of the night close black lens bracket, which she had risked her life to obtain for her boyfriend, Zhang Yi, in this hellish game world. Why? Lin Ji's voice was raspy as blood surged from the corners of her mouth. Standing before her was a glamorous couple. The man was handsome and tall, and the woman was delicate and lovely. They were Zhang Yi, the boyfriend she had protected for 10 years, and Su Wan, the best friend she treated like a younger sister. Sister, don't blame Yi. Su Wan snuggled into Zhang Yi's arms, smiling with an air of innocence, while her hands toyed with the Godhead shard that had just dropped from Lin Ji's corpse. This is the only chance to become a god. You're so strong that even without this, you'd be able to survive, right? But Yi and I are different, we need it too much. Zhang Yi didn't even spare Lin Ji a glance, merely wiping the bloodstains off his sleeve with disgust. Lin Ji, you're too overbearing. Being with you always makes me feel like a kept man. Only Wanwan understands me. For the sake of our future, I can only ask you to die. Her consciousness gradually began to fade. This was the lover she had guarded for 10 years. These were the fellow humans she had fought so hard to protect. To defend the gates of the Washa war zone, she had burned her life force to cast a forbidden spell, only to be backstabbed by her own people at her weakest moment. Anger, resentment, regret. Endless darkness swept over her. If there is a next life. Ha. Lin Ji bolted upright in bed, gasping for air, her pajamas soaked in cold sweat. Her heart was pounding violently, as if it were about to burst through her chest. No blood, no pain. She instinctively reached for her heart, her hand met warm, smooth skin, with no sign of that ghastly blood hole. This is. Lin Ji looked up blankly. What met her eyes was not a dark, damp dungeon, nor the smoke-filled ruins of a national war, but a spacious and bright luxury bedroom. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the sun was shining, and traffic was bustling. Trembling, she grabbed the phone by her pillow. The screen lit up, and the time displayed on it struck her mind like a bolt of lightning. June 12, 2035, 10 a.m. Lin Ji's pupils suddenly constricted. Today is 3 days before the launch of God's Domain. In 3 days, the holographic online game known as Humanity's Second World, God's Domain, would begin its global open beta. A year later, the game would merge with reality, monsters would descend, order would collapse, and the world would turn into purgatory. I have been reborn. Lin Ji stared fixedly at the phone screen, her knuckles turning white from the force of her grip. A moment later, she suddenly let out a low, cold laugh. The laughter squeezed out from deep within her throat, carrying a heart-palpitating chill. Zhang Yi, Su Wan. That bone-deep hatred surged in her blood, but in the next second, the madness in Lin Ji's eyes quickly cooled, replaced by a dead silence like a 10,000-year-old glacier. Crying. Breaking down. Those were the rights of the weak. Since the heavens had given her a second chance at life, she would never repeat the same mistakes. In her past life, as a mage, she had a strong survival capacity because her stat points were balanced, but she lacked explosive power. She was always acting as the team's nanny and meat shield, giving all the best resources to Zhang Yi. This time, Lin Ji narrowed her eyes, her mind racing. She remembered that in the early stages of God's Domain, there was a fatal economic loophole, as well as an extremely well-hidden unique SSS rank talent awakening quest. To complete that quest, and even to hoard enough resources before then, she needed money. A lot of money. Lin Ji immediately opened her mobile banking app and checked her balance. Open black lens bracket account balance, 520,000.00 RMB close black lens bracket. This was part of the cash her parents had left her after they died in a car accident. To an ordinary person, it was a huge sum, but for her plan, it wasn't even enough to get started. Not enough, far from enough. Lin Ji's gaze sharpened as she quickly dialed a number. Hello, Manager Wang. This is Lin Ji. The enthusiastic voice of a real estate agent came from the other end. "Oh, Miss Lin. Have you finally decided to rent out that downtown villa? Let me tell you, the current market." "I'm not renting it out," Lin Ji interrupted him, her voice terrifyingly calm. "I want to sell the house." "Huh, sell it?" Manager Wong was stunned. "Miss Lin, that was left to you by your parents. Tianyuanyu Jing, a detached villa with a 500 square meter garden. Market value is 80 million. What?" Manager Wang's voice instantly jumped an octave. "FIF, 50 million. Miss Lin, you're not joking, are you? If this price gets out, people will go crazy for it. But 24 hours is too rushed. Can you do it? If not, I'll find someone else." I can. Definitely. I'll contact buyers right now. Miss Lin, wait at home, I'll bring the contract over immediately." After hanging up the phone, Lin Ji didn't stop for a moment. Selling the house was only the first step. She flipped through her contacts, her finger sliding over names until it stopped on several numbers that looked illegitimate. These were underground banks and online loan sharks she had contacted in her past life to raise money for Zhang Yi's equipment. Back then, she had been cautious even when borrowing, fearing she wouldn't be able to pay it back. But now, in 3 days, the world order would be rewritten. Money, that would be nothing more than scrap paper about to become obsolete. A cruel arc curled at the corner of Lin Ji's mouth as she pressed the call button without hesitation. "Hello, is this Brother Long? I heard you have the fastest payouts. I want to borrow money, maximum limit. Collateral. I have a car and company shares, I'll put them all up. Interest. Set it however you like, even 13 for 9 is fine. I just need it fast. 1 call, 2 calls, 10 calls." For a full hour, Lin Ji acted like a madwoman, frantically amassing wealth from every possible channel. Credit card cash outs, online loans, car mortgages, selling off stocks. It was as if she were overdrawing her own future, desperately turning everything that could be converted into numbers into cold balances in her bank account. At dusk, the sunset was as red as blood. Lin Ji stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the bustling city. Neon lights began to flicker, and ignorant people were still bustling about for mortgages, car loans, and promotions, completely unaware that in 3 days, all of this would vanish into thin air. Her phone vibrated. It was a notification of a deposit. Manager Wong was very efficient. The 50 million deposit had already been paid into her account. Combined with the funds from her frantic borrowing and cash outs, the cash flow in her hands had reached a terrifying figure, 83 million. 83 million. In her past life, this amount couldn't even buy the divine artifact in Zhang Yi's hands. But on the eve of the server launch, this money was enough for her to buy out all the hidden resources in the entire novice village. Ding. The phone vibrated again, this time with a WeChat message from Zhang Yi. "Open black lens bracket baby, I was thinking, should we still go to that Japanese restaurant this weekend? By the way, I heard a new game called God's Domain is coming out. Do you want to play together? Close black lens bracket." Looking at this message full of hypocrisy, there wasn't a single ripple in Lin Ji's eyes. With a few taps of her finger, she blocked and deleted Zhang Yi and Su Wan's contact information. Having done all this, she looked up. The eyes reflected in the glass window no longer held a trace of warmth, leaving only a bone-chilling sharpness. She reached out and made a grasping motion in the air, as if seizing the scepter that was about to arrive. To the empty room, and to her former foolish self, she softly declared, "In this life, I will not be a savior. I will only be the God, who holds the power over life and death." Chapter 2, All In. Go all in. The next morning, 48 hours before the launch of God's Domain, Lin Ji sat in the executive suite of a 5-star hotel, with 3 top-tier computers set up in front of her. She had just finished the transfer of the villa's title and received the remaining balance. Combined with the funds from her frantic borrowing yesterday, she now held a cash flow of exactly 83 million yuan. This was a massive sum of money, enough for an ordinary person to live comfortably for several lifetimes. But at this moment, in Lin Ji's eyes, they were merely a string of numbers about to expire. Phew. She took a deep breath and opened the official pre-sale trading platform for God's Domain. Although the game hadn't launched yet, the developers had opened the trading function for some basic resources early to build hype. Players could use real-world currency to buy some initial items that wouldn't affect the game's balance. On the trading platform, the most popular items were various limited edition fashions, majestic-looking mount cubs, and starter packs that provided slight attribute bonuses in the early game. My god, that golden griffin mount costs 500,000. People are actually scrambling to buy it. Tisk, you don't understand the world of the wealthy. How cool would it be to ride a griffin at the start? I'll just buy some starter weapon packs. An iron sword that adds 5 attack points is only $1,000. What a deal. Looking at the future players, on the public screen fighting tooth and nail for a few attribute points and appearances, a cold sneer curled at the corner of Lin Ji's mouth. Stupid. These things being hyped to sky-high prices now would all become trash that no one would even bother to pick up off the ground a week after the server opened. Her gaze bypassed those flashy goods and locked directly onto two unpopular categories in the far corner of the trading platform. Open black lens bracket consumables close black lens bracket and open black lens bracket miscellaneous close black lens bracket. She clicked on the open black lens bracket consumables close black lens bracket tab, her eyes locking onto a bottle with an icon that looked like slop. Item name. Open black lens bracket inferior mana recovery potion small close black lens bracket. Effect. Slowly restores 30 mana over 10 seconds. Side effect. After drinking, there is a certain chance of falling into a nausea state, reducing movement speed by 10%. Current market price. 10 fen per bottle practically free, the system's minimum price. Stock. 999,999,999 plus infinite supply from the system. Who would buy this trash? It restores so little mana and has side effects. I wouldn't even take it if they gave it to me for free in the beginner village, someone had once commented on the forums. However, looking at the bottle, Lin Ji's eyes flickered with the glint of a hungry wolf. In her past life, everyone sought high burst damage and high healing, neglecting the importance of mana. It wasn't until the first large-scale dungeon raid failed because all the mages ran out of mana that people realized the strategic significance of blue potions. And while this inferior blue potion had poor effects, it was the only potion without a drug resistance limit. More importantly, the heaven-defying SSS rank talent she was about to awaken was a total mana hog. Buy. Lin Ji's fingers rested on the keyboard without the slightest hesitation. She didn't enter the numbers manually but instead wrote a simple script program to sweep up goods at the highest priority. Start script. Target. Open black lens bracket inferior mana recovery potion small close black lens bracket. Price. 20 fen per bottle purchasing at a 100% premium. Quantity. All of them. I want as many as there are. Boom. The trading platform lagged for a moment. In the next second, countless purchase records flooded the screen like a waterfall. The 83 million in funds, like a floodgate being opened, surged frantically into this most inconspicuous corner. What the hell? Is the system bugged? Who's sweeping up inferior blue potions? Are they crazy? 20 cents a bottle. Can't you buy these for 10 cents whenever you want from the system? Does this person have too much money to burn? Probably some studio made a slip of the hand. Hilarious, how much money are they going to lose? The public screen was filled with mockery, everyone treated this mysterious buyer as a fool. Lin Ji remained indifferent, her gaze turning to her second target. Open black lens bracket blank skill book page low grade close black lens bracket in the open black lens bracket miscellaneous close black lens bracket tab. This was another kind of trash. Its purpose was to let players try to transcribe skills themselves, but the success rate was outrageously low, and it could only transcribe the lowest level cantrips. In her past life, this was waste paper that even NPC shops wouldn't accept. But for Lin Ji, this was the cornerstone of her path to the throne. Switch script. Target. Open black lens bracket blank skill book page low grade close black lens bracket. Price. 500% premium. All in. Throw all the remaining money into it. The dense sound of mouse clicks rang out like a charge bugle on a battlefield. While Lin Ji was frantically sweeping up the goods, there was a knock on the door. Manager Wang, who had helped her sell the villa, walked in with the final documents, followed by a well-dressed middle-aged woman, Lin Ji's second aunt. Lin Ji, how can you be so thoughtless? As soon as her second aunt entered and saw the 3 computers with screens full of dense trading data, she immediately shrieked, "Your parents just passed away, and you sold the villa in the city center. Have you been scammed? What do you want to do with tens of millions? Go gambling." Manager Wang also tried to persuade her earnestly, "Yes, Miss Lin, I heard you took out many loans. Your current actions, although I don't understand this game data, spending money like this is just too." He leaned in to glance at the screen and suddenly gasped, 80 million, you spent it all on these virtual trash bottles and scrap paper. Her second aunt rushed forward, trying to grab Lin Ji. "You spendthrift. You're crazy. Hurry up and get the money back. This money must be kept by your second uncle for you." Lin Ji turned her head sharply, her bone-chilling gaze freezing her aunt's outstretched hand in midair. "It's my money, I'll spend it however I want." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried an unquestionable pressure. It was a murderous aura forged in the seas of blood and mountains of corpses from her past life. You. Her second aunt was intimidated by her gaze and shouted with false bravado, "You'll regret this. When you've squandered all your money in a couple of days, don't come crying to us for help. Let's go. This is beyond reason." Her second aunt pulled a regretful Manager Wang and stormed out, slamming the door. Silence returned to the room, leaving only the sound of the fan spinning frantically. Lin Ji looked at her empty bank account balance, which had turned into a large zero. Meanwhile, in her game's pre-deposit warehouse, a shocking mountain of trash had already piled up. Open black lens bracket inferior mana recovery potion small close black lens bracket, 200 million bottles. Open black lens bracket blank skill book page low grade close black lens bracket, 50 million pages. Looking at these staggering numbers, Lin Ji finally showed her first smile since her rebirth. That smile was cold yet filled with the confidence of one who controlled everything. Crazy. She lightly stroked the icons on the screen that the world saw as trash and whispered to herself. How can a sparrow know of a swan's ambitions? In 3 days, you will all know exactly who is crazy. Everything was ready, all that was needed was the final push. Lin Ji turned off the computer and walked to the window, watching the setting sun. The last glow of the old world. Come, God's domain. Chapter 3, Entering the Game, the Moment of Awakening. The eyes of billions across the globe were focused on this moment. As the countdown hit 0, countless currents of electricity surged through fiber optic cables, connecting humanity to the most massive virtual world in history. Connection beginning. Inside the cold gaming pod, Lin Ji felt her vision go dark, followed by a sudden, intense sensation of weightlessness. It was the moment the soul was pulled from the flesh. Open black lens bracket iris scan past, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket brainwave binding successful, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket welcome to God's domain, close black lens bracket. A grand, ancient chant exploded in her ears. When her vision cleared again, Lin Ji was standing within a massive white temple. A water mirror floated before her, reflecting her original appearance, hair like a black waterfall, features cold and elegant, though her complexion was slightly pale. Please name your character. The system's voice was solemn and ethereal. Jingmi. This was the ID she had used for 10 years in her previous life, a codename that had made the gods tremble. ID is unique. Naming successful. Would you like to adjust your appearance? Decrease it by 20%. Lin Ji didn't hesitate. In this life, she wanted to hide in the shadows and be the hunter pulling the strings, not a trophy for people to gawk at. Even with her appearance adjusted downward, the woman in the mirror remained delicate and poised, exuding a coldness that warned others to stay away. Character creation complete. Randomly assigning Novice Village. Assignment successful. Novice Village number 9999. We wish you a pleasant game. ... A flash of white light. A cacophony of noise instantly rushed into her eardrums. Holy crap. These graphics are too real. You can even pull the grass out of the ground. Is this the novice village? There are too many people, I'm getting crushed. Are there any girls here? Big brother will help you level up. On the plaza of novice village number 9999, dense flashes of white light flickered as countless novice players in coarse linen clothes crowded together like headless flies. Everyone was excitedly feeling their own bodies are trying to harass the impatient-looking village chief NPC to pick up quests. Only one figure, the moment they landed, shot out like an arrow from a bow. Lin Ji didn't look at anyone. She didn't go to accept the so-called chicken-slaying quest, and she didn't even have time to open her novice gift pack. She was sprinting. Her target, the cliff at the northernmost edge of the village. Who's that? Why are they running so fast? Must be a psycho. That's a dead end. The map marks it as Despair Cliff. If you fall, you lose a level instantly. Haha, the servers just opened and someone's already trying to commit suicide. Passing players pointed at Lin Ji's back and laughed. A few even followed her with the intention of watching the drama unfold. Lin Ji was deaf to it all. In her eyes, there was only the constantly ticking countdown. Open black lens bracket server opening countdown, 0 hours 2 minutes and 15 seconds close black lens bracket. 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. In her previous life, it wasn't until 3 months after the game launched that a data enthusiast uncovered this earth-shattering bug. Behind every novice village, there was a place known as Despair Cliff. Under normal circumstances, jumping off meant certain death. However, within the first 300 seconds of the server opening, due to the instability of spatial data loading, an extremely tiny data hole would appear at a specific coordinate point below the cliff. It was a backdoor left by the gods, and the only shortcut to becoming a supreme god. Once the 300 seconds passed and the data was repaired, it would return to being a true abyss of death. In her past life, this gift pack was stumbled upon by a lucky passerby. Relying on the items inside, that person eventually became a hegemon who shook the world. But this time, it's mine. Whoosh, whoosh. The wind whistled in her ears. Lin Ji reached the edge of the cliff. Ahead was a bottomless mist, and beneath her feet was an abyss where loose stones tumbled down. The few players who had followed to watch the show shouted breathlessly, "Hey! Girl, there's no road ahead. Don't do anything stupid." Lin Ji's pace didn't slow in the slightest. At the very edge of the cliff, she suddenly leapt. In that moment, her figure was like a black swallow, plunging into the vast sea of clouds without a hint of hesitation. Holy crap, she actually jumped. Lunatic. She's a total lunatic. ... Weightlessness enveloped her entire body as the gale slashed against her cheeks like knives. During the rapid descent, Lin Ji was terrifyingly calm. She stared fixedly at the constantly shifting coordinates at the bottom of her vision. Now, the moment before she was about to smash into a protruding rock, Lin Ji forcibly twisted her torso in midair, performing a side flip that defied the laws of physics. If she were using her mage character from her previous life, she wouldn't have been able to do it. But her current body had been reshaped by the system, though only level 1, it possessed perfect coordination. Coordinates: x, -999, y, -999. Got it. Lin Ji's fingers dug fiercely into an inconspicuous patch of withered grass on the rock wall. Her body jerked to a halt, the massive force nearly dislocated her arm. She hung in midair with a bottomless abyss beneath her, and right there in a crevice hidden by the withered grass, an ancient treasure chest emitting a faint 7-colored glow floated quietly. It was ancient and mysterious, as if it didn't belong to this dimension. Open black lens bracket Supreme God gift pack unique close black lens bracket. The moment she saw those words, Lin Ji's heart, which had been tightly strung since her rebirth, finally relaxed halfway. She took a deep breath and reached out a trembling hand to touch the cold surface of the chest. Open black lens bracket ding, close black lens bracket. A magnificent pillar of golden light shot into the sky, instantly piercing through the cliff's mist and stabbing straight into the heavens. The entire sky of Novice Village number 9999 was dyed golden. In fact, this ripple spread throughout the entire server. A second later, a bright red server-wide announcement ruthlessly dominated the vision of every online player. Open black lens bracket server announcement, a miracle has descended. Congratulations to player, Jingmi, from the Washa War Zone for successfully discovering a hidden Easter egg and obtaining the server's unique reward, the Supreme God Gift Pack. The path of myth begins now, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket server announcement, a miracle has descended. Congratulations to player, Jingmi, from the Washa War Zone, close black lens bracket. It flashed 3 times in a row. At this moment, billions of players across the globe who had just entered the game stopped their movements in unison. Players at the village entrances who were fighting tooth and nail over a single wild chicken stared blankly at the sky. Powerful figures in meeting rooms deploying guild tactics stood up in shock, slamming their tables. Jingmi, who is that? The server's only been open for 3 minutes. I haven't even squeezed out of the respawn point and she's already gotten a unique reward. Investigate. Investigate immediately. Find this, Jingmi, at all costs. Upon the cliffside, Lin Ji paid no mind to the uproar outside. She sat perched on that narrow rock, looking at the slowly opening chest in her hand, a bloodthirsty curve hooking the corner of her mouth. Lying quietly inside was a crystal as black as ink, as if it could swallow light itself. That was the SSS grade Talent Awakening Stone. It was also the beginning of her revenge. Chapter 4. SSS grade Talent, All Things Sublimation. Upon the cliff, the biting wind howled. The black crystal in Lin Ji's palm seemed to possess a life of its own, pulsing rhythmically with her breath. This was the open black lens bracket Talent Awakening Stone close black lens bracket that had driven countless experts mad in her previous life. Normal players who wanted to awaken a talent had to wait until after their level 10 class change, and most could only awaken trash tier C grade or D grade talents. Only a tiny fraction of lucky individuals could obtain A grade or higher. Yet this stone contained the power to break the rules. Shatter. Lin Ji's fingers suddenly exerted force, crushing the crystal into pieces. There was no earth-shattering explosion as imagined, only a wisp of deep, dark purple light instantly burrowed into the space between her brows. Open black lens bracket system prompt, detecting player's soul strength. Detection passed. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket matching talent sequence, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Congratulations to player, Jingmi, for successfully awakening the unique SSS grade talent, All Things Sublimation, close black lens bracket. Swish. A light blue translucent panel unfurled before Lin Ji's eyes. Open black lens bracket talent name, All Things Sublimation SSS grade unique close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket effect 1. Conceptual advancement close black lens bracket. You can perform 1 sublimation on any item or skill. Common item right pointing arrow excellent right pointing arrow rare right pointing arrow epic right pointing arrow legendary right pointing arrow mythical forbidden spell. The sublimation process is guaranteed to succeed, ignoring all probabilities. Open black lens bracket effect 2. Equivalent exchange core restriction close black lens bracket sublimation is not free. Raising an item's level requires the consumption of a massive amount of mana points MP. The higher the tier jumped, the more terrifying the consumption. If MP is insufficient, health points HP will be deducted. If HP is insufficient, forced death occurs. Looking at this familiar panel, the smile on the corners of Lin Ji's lips gradually widened. In her previous life, the player who obtained this talent didn't have enough mana to support it. Every sublimation was like gambling with their life, so they didn't dare use it on a large scale. But she was different. For this moment, I've prepared 80 million units of fuel. Lin Ji opened her inventory. There lay the 2 things she had stockpiled before the server opened. 200 million bottles of open black lens bracket inferior mana potion close black lens bracket. 50 million open black lens bracket blank skill book pages close black lens bracket. Ammo first. Lin Ji was in no rush to sublimate skills, instead, she first took out those blank pages. As a reincarnator, she was well versed in the transcription formulas for all basic skills. Her fingers danced as she used the system's built-in transcription function to transform all these blank pages into the lowest, trashiest skill books in God's domain that even a dog wouldn't learn. Open black lens bracket fireball scroll inferior close black lens bracket description, consumable. Releases a small fireball, dealing 5 damage. Within a few short minutes, through bulk operations, her inventory was filled with 100,000 freshly made inferior fireball scrolls. If a normal player saw this, they would definitely think she was crazy. What use was there in making so much trash that only dealt 5 damage? Next, it's time to witness a miracle. Lin Ji took a deep breath and selected the 100,000 open black lens bracket fireball scrolls close black lens bracket in her inventory. Talent activated, open black lens bracket all things sublimation close black lens bracket. Warning, estimated mana consumption, 1 billion points. Current mana is insufficient. Enable automatic replenishment mode. The system's red alarm flashed frantically in her field of vision. Lin Ji's expression was indifferent, even a bit excited. Enable automatic replenishment. Use all open black lens bracket inferior mana potions close black lens bracket. Boom. In an instant, the mana potions in her inventory began to disappear at a speed invisible to the naked eye. 10,000 bottles, 100,000 bottles, 1 million bottles. A terrifying magical turbulence erupted around Lin Ji, forming a visible blue storm. If it weren't for this being a dead corner of the cliff, this magical fluctuation alone would have been enough to attract the attention of the entire server. Her mana bar was like a roller coaster, instantly emptying, instantly refilling, and then instantly emptying again. That dizzying sensation of the soul being drained and then refilled left Lin Ji's face pale, but her eyes were terrifyingly bright. Sublimate, for me. As the last bottle of potion was consumed automatically deducted by the system, of course a red light bright enough to cause blindness exploded in her inventory. The originally dull open black lens bracket fireball scrolls close black lens bracket underwent a qualitative mutation at this moment. The paper turned into ancient parchment woven with divine flame patterns, surrounded by suffocatingly high temperatures. Open black lens bracket system prompt. Sublimation successful, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket you have obtained. Forbidden spell scroll Buddha's Wrath Red Lotus times 10,000, close black lens bracket. With trembling hands, Lin Ji clicked on the attributes of the new item. Open black lens bracket Forbidden spell scroll, Buddha's Wrath Red Lotus close black lens bracket open black lens bracket rank. Demigod consumable close black lens bracket open black lens bracket effect close black lens bracket. Summons Hell's Red Lotus karmic fire, dealing a devastating blow to a designated area 5,000 meters by 5,000 meters. Open black lens bracket damage close black lens bracket. Base damage of 10 million true damage, ignores defense. Includes a permanent burn effect, leaving nothing alive. Open black lens bracket usage restriction close black lens bracket. No level restriction the charm of pay to win items. 10 million damage, ignores defense. Looking at that terrifying number, Lin Ji couldn't help but laugh out loud. Her laughter grew louder and louder, eventually echoing freely across the lonely cliff. Current players generally have only 100 HP. Even a max level knight in god tier gear only has a few 100,000 HP. Yet in her hands, she held 10,000 nuclear bombs, with damage as high as 10 million. Was this even playing a game? This was clearly a dimensional strike. Others deal 1 damage with a basic attack and have to calculate positioning and mana consumption. Lin Ji casually pulled a forbidden spell scroll emitting a terrifying heatwave from her inventory, gently stroking the scalding patterns on it. She looked toward the looming novice village forest in the distance, where the first batch of bosses was currently spawning. And I only need to think about one question. Lin Ji whispered softly, a dangerous light flashing in her eyes. After this one shot, what will be left of the map?